In this lecture, I am going to talk about how revitalization of existing cruise ship is impactful, and here's why. Now, we are obsessed with getting a new iPhone, getting that new electric car, and that's fine and dandy. But if you think about demolishing something and the energy used to demolish it and the work extracting and recycling stuff, it's a lot of work. I think it's important to note that rebuilding something existing can be very productive as well as effective. And I will show you the reasons why. Before going over the positive aspects of revitalization, let's discuss the first challenges and positive outcomes that existing ships experience. Now, during the COVID pandemic, the cruise ship industry went into a severe disruption of people not wanting to go on cruises out of fear of the spread of coronavirus. As a result, ships were being deemed as non usable and taken to landfill trash sites to be demolished and have their materials of value extracted for recycling. This posed negatively on the future of cruising. So this was a time when you saw the dismantling of the cruise ship industry and the almost a perception that that this is useless. It's just not going to go. And there was a shipyard in Turkey that did this. It's a massive operation, and I talk about energy for demolishing and how that is can relate with creating and rebuilding. What's a better form of energy? So one thing to note about the older ships is that they can be characterized as having outdated designs, evoking a stylistic trend of an earlier time period. Older ships have a thematic design aesthetic, meaning much of the design takes cues from stylistic periods like beaux-arts, rococo, and several references to other traditional styles. This can be characterized as garish and excessive, almost drawing you back to the interiors at Cheesecake Factory. A major turning point occurred when cruise ship companies developed their own in-house product development and marketing departments. These departments have made revitalizations as an experimentation of design branding, i.e., developing a concept and idea of design, as opposed to doing something thematic uh, as the guiding principle. In one example, a cruise line wanted to increase revenue, so they went into revitalizing a pool deck, which drew a lot of guests, and the atmosphere was stimulating and fun, and in turn, it increased the sales of alcohol and liquor. So we know that the cruises and the cruise lines were very sort of attached to this Beaux-Arts and Rococo style. But for some reason, it doesn't feel like design. It feels too dated. Doesn't It's not stimulating. So with the revitalizations, you had the opportunity to create something new, create a space that's no different than what you would see in, in Brooklyn, New York, or, you'd see some modernism that's as good as anything, from San Francisco or Texas. It's basically now the game is revitalized. Let's experiment. And one good example that came about was when Royal Caribbean revitalized one of their ships, which was Navigator of the Seas. And what they did was they wanted to take a very old ship and give it a Caribbean feel. So it sort of wanted to create an atmosphere, and this is one of the first successful revitalizations. And they did do other pool decks with other companies, but it didn't generate the same buzz. And then because of the success of this has become the brand standard. And now, whenever the newer ships, different architects do different interpretations of this style or that product development developed. So the next point is that while revitalizations require an extensive amount of time, planning and review design progress, the actual construction is far less than building a new ship from scratch. Construction for revitalization dry docks run from 2 to 4 months, happening at an aggressive pace. Some of the new high-tech cruise ships of today were planned and built in 10 years. So when they do the revitalization, they have the design reviews and making the working drawings. So that's, probably around a month or, a year, or, maybe year or 16 months. And then once the drawings are completed, the contractor, make the shop drawings, and then it'll get constructed, and it's a fast process because there's revenue to be made. Time is money, especially on these dry docks. Um, and to give perspective, Icon of the Seas by RCCL required nearly 10 years in planning and construction. Now, been a very good outcome to the idea of revitalization. And it comes to the fifth point. As revitalization can prove to be financially positive, it also evokes another theme, and that is the recycling of older ships and not sending them to be demolished is a positive move. This can be seen with the rise of smaller vessels like Jimmy Buffett's cruise line, Margaritaville at the Sea. It has employed the idea of branding of what you would normally see in a Margaritaville hotel into a moving vessel. So you have those Caribbean themes, those idea of just unwinding. I know he was a heavy avid drinker, so having consuming your alcohol on the beach in perfect weather. So it has that brand, and it's a very modest cruise. The cruises range from 1 to 3 nights, but the significance is that with new players entering the ship market, one has more options on cruising from something high to low. Cruising can be super expensive. There's a cruise line region, they have like a $1.7 million cruise for really long time. So it can be really there's a real hierarchy. But the good thing is that this brings about variety and diversity into the cruise ship market. And looking at Cruise Critic, the reviews of the ship have been positive. There were some complaints. After all, it is an old ship. Uh, but the news is the cruise line is constantly updating their services, and a new vessel is in the making. So it'll be interesting what kind of ship they will recycle, because plenty of these big ships, from Royal to Carnival to Norwegian, they have old ships. Let's see if these guys will ever get to recycling those ships. So I hope you enjoyed this discussion on revitalization. I'm just going to show you a few slides of projects where I was involved in revitalizations. Thank you.